So can you all see that? I can't see you right now, so I'm just making sure you can.
Yeah, looks beautiful.
Okay, great. So as John mentioned and actually began the introduction to this event, I work at the Center for Native Peoples and the Environment at SUNY ESF here in Onondaga territory, and I think that was I'm just going to talk a little bit about our work on justice for land and people. In an Indigenous worldview, these two are inseparable. And so when we talk about environmental justice, we talk about both land, waters, people, all of creation. And so we're actually the first New York State institution to acknowledge that the university is on Onondaga land in a program we call Where We Stand. And that has led us to a number of different partnerships with Indigenous communities, even with the New York State DEC to develop some cross-cultural training. And it has led us down this path of thinking about land justice, again, in a larger framework in terms of relationship with place. This work has been guided by a constellation you probably all are familiar with. We call it the Great Bear. The Great Bear Hunt, which is starting to reveal itself quite nicely in our skies this time of year, and we're really centered on that North Star of justice. And so I just want to move through this sort of this art in a way, and talk a little bit about our first steps, both as counties, as states, as legislators, as citizens of New York and the United States, and first engaged in an activity of remembering something John mentioned, that of course the first act of injustice here in New York State is the loss of land. The loss of land is quite significant when you compare it to loss of land by other Indigenous peoples in North America. By our calculation, we've lost 99.99937% of our territories. Once millions of acres has now been reduced down to postage stamp size reservations across New York. And of course, the reason we think about land and people together is that it was done through a very systematic way, right? It was done through a program to turn the Indian into the white man. And this is a picture from the Carlisle boarding school down in Pennsylvania, which many of our Haudenosaunee people attended. And many died at, and many there's still work around, recognizing the role of the states and of the country in terms of its impact in our communities through boarding schools. We also want to remember that New York State is a place of significant agreements about the environment, beginning in 1613 and lasting for about 200 years. This age of treaty making is significant. It is something we hold near and dear to our hearts, and are constantly seeking redress and recognition for in the U.S. and state courts. And so it's important to remember that these rights are not special treatment for an ethnic minority. This is a slide that we often use in educating folks about treaty rights throughout New York State. They are essentially between the United States and the Haudenosaunee Confederacy. They were accomplished through land cessions in a lot of cases. And of course, the most important fact is that they were not given to Indian nations. There are rights that were reserved, and those rights that were not specifically mentioned in treaties, of course, are still called reserved rights. And this is all really a backdrop to thinking about our relationship with the larger settler society. And the two-row wampum serves as sort of a nice, as a nice model, as a nice law, as a nice way of thinking about sharing the river of life together. This is an old wampum belt that I think actually serves very well in thinking about environmental justice issues with Indigenous communities across our territories. One of the purple lines being a vessel of the settlers, and of course the other purple line being the canoe of the Haudenosaunee people, united by these three white rows of beads here, representing peace, friendship, and trust. So this is a 400-year-old agreement made on the shores of the Hudson River, and it has been our job to remind all New York State citizens that all people in New York State are treaty people. These are not Indian treaties. These are treaties with society in general, with American citizens and their state governments. And we need to constantly think about that vision, about how we share this river of life. When we think about visioning, we move into thinking about collaboration, right? Collaborating with today's Indigenous communities, our chiefs, our clan mothers, and our faith keepers who have a very different way of looking at justice on the land, and for all of creation. Many of these approaches has been captured in a document called the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People. I encourage folks to find that declaration on the internet and think about what kind of collaboration we're doing in partnership with Indigenous communities. And of course, one of those concepts that you will see woven throughout this declaration is the notion of free, prior, and informed consent. And so these are some international, models for how settler societies work with Indigenous people. And so we're learning a lot about New York State, society. We're learning together, and this is a picture of a program we do for the New York State DEC in talking about treaty rights. And you see in this picture here, Tadadaho Sid Hill from Onondaga leading a discussion about the Great Law of Peace and its role in protecting the environment. So if we could imagine together, right, after learning and filling up this giant dipper in the sky here, to think about what these kinds of steps look like on the land. And if we were then to say, let's imagine the bigger picture that is involved here. We think about a healthy future for our children and our families, gathering from the land in our traditional territories without fear, in fear of both contamination, but also fear of being prosecuted under New York State law for violating the conservation law. It's not something we often think about in terms of justice, but it's something that me and my family, pictured here, are actively engaged in our traditional territories, and feel, as always, going back to the original EJ discussions in New York State years ago, that the lack of acknowledgement of these treaty rights is one of the first issues to tackle with respect to environmental justice in Indian country. So what are we doing about it? How do we plan? How do we move forward after we've remembered, after we've had a vision about how we can work together and then begin collaborating with Indigenous communities? How do we plan on that? And this is some of the work we're doing, creating maps for communities about cultural provisioning, about plants and other flora and fauna on the landscape that are needed by our faith keepers, our ceremony holders, and in our communities for medicine and for ceremony. We are participating with communities in bio blitzes where environmental justice actions such as the Stamp Project in Genesee County, or here in Onondaga Territory, the return of a solution, a brine solution mining site in southern Onondaga County, to find out what we're in danger of losing, right? To build relationships with place as part of land justice. We, of course, are researching, and it's central to our work is to think about the return of land as an act of environmental justice, right? About transferring land, about land trusts and their role in protecting land. And finally, what this has led to is something Gary Nabham coined years ago, that what we need is not necessarily restoration from an ecological perspective, but we are seeking restoration, right? So when we drive through New York and we see the signs for Clinton Sullivan, or we see the signs about colonial conquest throughout New York, these are also instruments of environmental injustice, right? And so we've been partnering with a number of different organizations to tell a different story about place. I think I'll leave it at that. It was a lot to fit in terms of history and work going on today. So appreciate that, and I'll turn it back over.
Thank you, Gary. That was very very helpful and very moving. Appreciate it. Okay, one thing that we all know, if we're working in environmental work and environmental justice particularly, is that the key component in that struggle is having access to good legal advice and legal help, and just a shout out to all those environmental lawyers, working in the state, who could be making a lot more money working for Exxon than working for their local native tribe or their local farmers or whatever. So we have one of those guys here today. Gary Abraham's an attorney who has specialized in environmental law since 2000. His practice is limited to public interest representation, and he taught sociology before he was a lawyer at St. Bonaventure, and at that time was active in coalitions of community organizations battling with the unwanted landfill proposals. And he's also provided information assistance to many organizations and individuals concerned with the urban equality of solid waste policy, and specifically energy policy, which I know Gary's an expert about. And he was also a fellow of the National Resources Institute of Lewis and Clark College, Northwestern School of Law, and we're really happy to have Gary with us today to share some of his hard-fought lessons from working upstate. So, Gary, take it over.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Okay. I want to make the case today that large-scale renewables sited in upstate New York represent a dramatic environmental justice issue, especially since electricity in upstate New York today is 90% carbon-free. But there is no transmission capacity to get any of that electricity downstate. Downstate electricity is about 25% emissions free. I think less so, since they just shut down three nuclear power plants on the Hudson River, which provided base load, always on, the carbon-free electricity. Those plants were replaced by gas plants. They were not replaced by renewables, because none of the large-scale renewables upstate, as I say, can transmit or transport their electricity downstate. Let me go back to the really the origins of environmental justice. The U.S. EPA states on its website that environmental justice is the fair treatment and meaningful involvement of all people, regardless of race, color, national origin, or income, with respect to the development, implementation, and enforcement of environmental laws, regulations, and policies. New York's environmental justice policy, which is found at New York's DEC's guidance document CP 29, adopts the same language and adds this: fair treatment means that no group of people, including a racial, ethnic, or socioeconomic group, should bear a disproportionate share of the negative environmental consequences resulting from environmental, municipal, and commercial operations, or the execution of federal, state, local, and tribal programs and policies. The EPA used to use that language too when it first put up its environmental justice website. And under New York's policy, environment is defined the same way as it is in SEQR, the State Environmental Quality Review Act, to include archaeological and historical resources, such as Native American artifacts, and, quote, existing community or neighborhood character and public health, unquote. Those definitions are included in the DEC's environmental justice regulations found at 6 NYCRR Part 487. And those regulations apply to the siting of large-scale renewables. But the regulations are only triggered where a project would affect a so-called EJ area. An EJ area is defined as a low-income community, which is itself defined as a census block group or contiguous census block groups, where 23.59% or more of the population has an annual income that is less than the federal poverty threshold, or where 33.8% or more of the population within a rural census block group are racial minorities, or where 51.1% or more of the population are within an urban census block group are minorities. So what has happened to the broad definition of environmental justice as the discouragement or even prohibition on disproportionate impacts, regardless of race, ethnicity, and so forth, has become racial environmental justice and class environmental justice. In the dozen or so large-scale renewable cases the state has cited, wind farms and solar farms, the DEC has found an EJ area in just one. However, in testimony about that finding, DEC acknowledged that the neighboring communities didn't differ in any qualitative way from the EJ area that they found. This was in the context of a very large wind farm that covered 3 counties, portions of 3 counties and 5 towns. And in one of the towns, an EJ area was found. That area was statistically poor under the definition, but only by a few percentage points from its neighbors. And the DEC did a drive-through to kind of confirm its statistical analysis, which was done on a desktop. And testimony confirmed that it could find really no qualitative difference between the EJ area and all the communities around it. Now, I want to get you to understand, if I can, the nature of the impacts of a large-scale renewable energy project on an upstate rural community. I'm going to use as an example the Alley Cat wind farm, which was just approved by the Public Service Commission, the State Siting Board. Happens to be in litigation. I'm representing 6 different groups that were parties in that proceeding. But based on the record, the hearing examiners in that case issued a recommended decision to the siting board with the following conclusions. At least 41 bald eagles will be killed by the project over 30 years, and that's attributed to just 1 active nest. And there are 6 other active breeding nests in close proximity. And this is where I live. The bald eagles are around. They have come back. I saw a pair of bald eagles fly over my pond the other day. Another finding was between 26,000 and 39,500 bats will be killed by the project over 30 years, including 2 species listed as threatened or endangered. the grassland habitat of the threatened upland sandpiper would be adversely affected. The project would cross 174 streams, creating 1,982 linear feet of permanent stream impacts and 6,911 linear feet of temporary stream impacts during construction. Over half the project area is unbroken interior forest, and the project would remove 1,550 acres of interior forest, and it would fragment the rest with access roads and interconnection lines among the 116 turbines the project requires. The project requires 9 miles of overhead interconnection line, 69 access roads, 3 permanent meteorological towers that are about 250 feet high, and a concrete batch plant. The 116 wind turbines would be mounted with night-operated FAA warning lights blinking all night, fundamentally altering the night sky for miles. Some property value decline is possible, naturally, the judges found. The project would be cited over a federally designated sole source of drinking water for several municipalities in western New York. And the project would be cited over an active earthquake fault system. Each of the 116 turbines would be 650 feet high. That's higher than any building in Albany, Syracuse, or Buffalo. This kind of project fundamentally alters the character of the community. This is a community that has a roughly 25 decibel background sound level, particularly at night. And the Public Service Commission approved noise impacts of 45 decibels in the community, in the 5 communities, 5 towns in which this would be located. The DEC has a noise policy guidance document that says an increase of 10 decibels over the pre-existing background should be avoided. Very annoying, very intrusive. An increase of 20 decibels is classified as intolerable. Noise is measured on a logarithmic scale, so an increase of 10 decibels in an urban area where the background might be 55 decibels, an increase of 10 would be experienced as the same way, roughly as a doubling of the noise. An increase of 20 over 55 in an urban area to 75 would be considered intolerable. So it's the same in a rural area. If the noise level, pre-existing noise level is very quiet, an increase of the same number of decibels has the same qualitative impact. Community character is supposed to be considered under Article 10, just as it is under the State Environmental Quality Review Act, but it's not defined in the statute. The statute's implementing regulations say community character includes defining features and interactions of the natural, built, and social environment, and how those features are used and appreciated in the community. And the regulations also anticipate the applicant will provide a qualitative assessment of the compatibility of the facility with current and planned uses, and will identify nearby land uses of particular concern to the community. Really, none of that was done in this case. And the concept of community character was never engaged by the siting board, even though there was testimony, the hearing examiners engaged it. The ultimate decision did not take it into account. I want to analogize this to the kinds of landfill fights that got me into law in the 1980s and 1990s. As John mentioned, I was part of the Western New York Garbage Coalition at a time when DEC was encouraging landfills to close or put in double liners, which is very expensive. Most of the municipal landfills in upstate New York closed. The ones that remained were large commercial landfills, in fact, larger than any landfill that humans have experienced. So we don't know ultimately what's going to happen in the end with these landfills. And Staten Island's Fresh Kills landfill was closing, and there had to be another place for New York City garbage. The rural-urban contrast there led to lots of activists opposing these projects, and a coalition of activists all over Western New York. There were a dozen landfill proposals in different communities. They all got together, pooled their resources and their information, and we stopped every one of those landfills. There hasn't been a landfill built in New York in 30 years because of that. The landfills that were left have expanded, doubling or tripling their size since then in order to accommodate the need for waste disposal. But those groups are NIMBY groups. Those are groups that are pejoratively called not in my backyard groups. The acronym is NIMBY. And NIMBY is a pejorative word because it's a fast way of just painting a broad brush and saying these people are selfish. They don't want to sacrifice for the common good. In fact, what happens is that these are people who drop everything, take time out of their life, often take time out of their jobs, or even quit their jobs in order to do the kind of work that it takes to become an activist, learn the issues, learn the law, learn the procedures, find out what to do about this. They are essentially altruistic. And what they're fighting is big developers who are anything but altruistic. Some of the most brutal developers that you can imagine were involved in these landfill proposals. It's the same way today with large-scale renewable projects. Large-scale renewables get between 60 to 80% of the capital cost of their projects paid for by the state and federal government and by local tax breaks. They don't pay local property taxes. They almost always get a payment in lieu of taxes, which results in about 25% of what they would have paid in property taxes. In my experience, dealing with them is even more difficult than it was dealing with landfill developers. These folks are not green. They are energy companies. They're just like any other energy company. And they're here because New York has rolled out the red carpet and given them all kinds of incentives. And now they've changed the law and eliminated the state siting law that was in place for 8 years, in which I practiced in several cases. And they've reduced and all but eliminated public participation and made it very easy to get a general permit. There's no more guaranteed hearings. There's no more guaranteed party status to participate in the proceeding. And that's because New York thinks that it is going to mitigate climate change with large-scale renewables. But as I said in the beginning, at least for the next few decades, that's just impossible. There is not a transmission infrastructure in place to do that. Probably if we put that in place, we would be spending way more money than we would need to do the kind of climate adaptation that was talked about earlier. Climate mitigation is reducing carbon. Climate adaptation is dealing with climate change, assuming that we can't avoid it. That's more and more an unavoidable conclusion, that we will not be able to avoid climate change. We don't know at this point how much climate change is going to affect us. We don't know that there's going to be a climate collapse. That's rather an exaggeration, but in any case, large-scale renewables have been around for 30 years. Europe started about 10 years before California and New York. And there isn't any evidence that all of the renewables in the world have changed anything. They have not reduced carbon in the atmosphere.
Gary, just a note, we're running a little short of time, so you could wrap it up so Anne can have her time.
Yeah, I can easily wrap it up. So there's this larger question of whether it's fair to impose a experimental solution to climate change on rural communities that can't handle this, and for whom their communities will just be turned upside down. And whether public participation should be further reduced, as the state is now doing, or whether environmental justice, which is designed to enhance public participation, ought to be applied to this problem too.
Thank you. It's very, very, very key point, and the success that Gary and other people have had upstate really depended on coalitions and getting different groups together to work together. And the person who's done that more than anybody, I think, at least in our part of Westchester, has been Ann Jaffe Holmes. So she's the program director of the Federated Conservationists of Westchester. Frankly, a lot of the successful projects that I've gotten involved in started at the Federated Conservation of Westchester meetings. Their mission really is to bring people together and groups and activists together and to educate them and to help them to work together. So Anne, please take it away.
Oh, thank you so much for that kind introduction, John. And it's an honor, a real honor, and I'm learning so much from our other panelists here, Bridget and Neil and Gary. So thank you so much. As John said, I'm going to take you back down to the grassroots level in the county of Westchester, down in Mount Vernon. The story is that I am with the Federated Conservationists of Westchester County, as John said, and we are an umbrella organization whose mission is to bring together the voices of Westchester County to protect our natural environment and our natural resources in Westchester for future generations. And about 10 or 12 years ago, our board members started to really get a little uncomfortable about the fact that the environmental forums and meetings and programs and everything we were doing was anywhere from 98.5% to 100% white and advantaged classes, middle to advantaged classes. And that's not everybody at the table, is it? So we had a couple of board members determined to break our work past this place, this limited place. So they decided to create an environmental justice conference. And to we identified 4 communities that we would start with. There are many environmental justice communities in Westchester, but we started with looking at something from Peekskill, something from Portchester, something from Yonkers, and something from Mount Vernon. And in envisioning this conference, I remember our then President Carol Griffiths kept saying to me, not just government people, we got to get down to the grassroots and get the grassroots people at that table, at that conference, not the government people and the institution people and the school district. We got to get the grassroots. So we kept going for the activists, the people who were banging on the doors and not necessarily getting heard or feeling traction. So we did this conference, and these 4 communities made their presentations, and oh my gosh, it was such good feedback. I mean, it was kind of mind-blowing, I think, for a lot of the environmentalists of Westchester who, like I said, I'm sad to say it, but you all know it, was just way too white. White and middle to advantaged class. So after the conference, Westchester Community Foundation came to us and said, that was really a fantastic conference. All of those things that came out need to be supported, but we would like to start with offering you to submit a proposal to work with the people in Mount Vernon who are trying to get a tree ordinance passed for 10 years. For 10 years, they were trying to get an ordinance passed to protect their canopy and to enhance their canopy and green space in that very dense city. Mount Vernon is 2 miles square, 60,000 people. A lot of concrete. So anyway, we were very grateful to receive this grant from Westchester Community Foundation, and we embarked on this new kind of working. This is so humbling, and I've never learned so much so fast, and it's such a deep level, a transformational level. It's like when I listen to Neil, all the parts inside me shift like a giant kaleidoscope, and they just take a different shape inside. And that's how I feel about the work that I'm doing with Mount Vernon. The people we're working with are at the grassroots. So in some cases, the government is not necessarily the advocate of the people. We all know that. And sometimes the government can be, the part of the problem. And yet it's always part and great potential for solution, right? So a lot of the task is in some cases trying to help activist people at the grassroots level to claim their government and find ways to make their government work for them as they need it to. But in the case of our work in Mount Vernon, I have to tell you, first of all, I way underestimated the cultural difference. I mean, in working with a community where people are unbanked, some people are unbanked. Most people, there are a lot of people who've been, chronically unemployed, generation after generation. People who do not trust their government or see their government as an instrument for the improvement of their particular lives. They see the government as something to be avoided, potentially dangerous, something that could harm them, an institution that's out to harm them. This, I'm sure Neil knows, you all know what I'm talking about, but it's, it's not where I've been used to working. In Westchester, I was used to working with our wonderful county government and municipal governments, in the smaller towns. This is different. And yet, I have met the most inspiring, brilliantly visionary people that know what they need and they know how to get it, how to build it at a community level. They just need, a breakup of the weight that's upon them and the barriers and the blockages. And they need access to the resources that, so many of us just take for granted. I know how to call up the DEC and get grants and how to do all that. And I know how to network with Bridget and network with John and no problem. But this community was disconnected. We found that, this community, we got 8 people from the city of Mount Vernon, activists and some elected officials and government people, to come to the Westchester County Earth Day conference, which was a Zoom at the time because of COVID. And after that conference, where they made a presentation of the work they were doing with their tree ordinance, which they had just gotten passed after 10 years, and their leaf blower ordinance, which they also gotten passed, they were so proud, and they all 8 of them said to me, I had no idea that the communities of Westchester were getting together regularly to share resources, share understandings, share learnings, and help each other and collaborate. They had no idea. They were so disconnected, and yet they have so much to offer, and they brought so much to that conference. So we're what I'm learning is that my job, I sit in meetings, and it's not my job to offer any kind of ideas or solutions. It's my job to listen and lift up the visions that the people have for themselves, and then just help them get connected to the resources that I'm easily connected to. Help them network, help them get more of what they need in terms of education. Help them rebuild relationships with their government, because truthfully, there are so many good people in the government of Mount Vernon, so many excellent elected officials and administrators that are trying to right that ship and bring in the benefit to the people in the grassroots, but the connections were broken. So it's a lot of connected feeling work, but humility is the huge thing. And I have to tell you, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I've had to apologize in big ways for big and small things, misjudgments, for suggesting something that was not my business to suggest, and was a bad false road, and then having to own it and apologize. And I'm very happy to tell you, the people of Mount Vernon are very compassionate and forgiving. of me for the mistakes I've made, and we've forged together past those mistakes into better working ways and into great understanding and a level of trust that I'm so feeds my soul and my heart. The level of trust that we're building together as we learn as I learn to support them in the ways that they need, not in the ways that I'm used to providing to other cities and communities. So I guess I just want to say that it's an adventure. Slow down. Listen, listen, listen. That's the watchwords. Listen, listen, listen. Listen in humility and in a complete faith that people know what they need. They know what they need, and they have their own visions. And it's our job to honor them and to connect them with what they need in order to get there. So thanks very much. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you, Anne. Now we have a few minutes for question and answers, and for those who are not going to rush off to the general meeting at 3, we probably have a couple of more minutes. So if you want to ask a question, please just walk up to these green strips on the side and go to where it says the number 1, because then your microphone will be live. I think that's that's basically the way we're going to do things. Do we not have any questions? That's unusual, but good, because we're short of time. But does anybody have a question? Oh, there was somebody's trying to get up. Sarah, let me see if I can unmute her, because I guess doesn't know how to get up to the podium. So give me a second there. Oops, way to go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Great.
Oh, great. I can't turn my camera on. I'm sorry. This is Sarah Smiley. I live in Sleepy Hollow, and I'm on the Climate Smart Task Force here. And I just wanted to, first of all, Anne, I always love hearing you speak. Always leave feeling inspired. And I was just curious, thank you to all the speakers. In terms of the tree canopy work that Bridget and Anne were speaking about, I was just curious if I heard talk about making those connections for local communities to get what they need. Is that sort of the main challenge? Like, we know, this heat island effect is a major problem in denser areas. Is it a matter of resources, or is it a matter of getting local government to pay attention to it?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one. Bridget, you might want to say something there. But one thing I want to say definitely, Sarah, very, very important, is that development is continuing. There's like a feeding frenzy going on in Westchester County right now, just north of the city, because people are fleeing the city, COVID and climate change and water inundation, right? So there's a feeding frenzy of developers going on. And that, I would say, is one thing, Sarah, that in Mount Vernon, we really have to get a handle of, the city has to get a handle of it. And the grassroots people are very troubled about the rapidity with which development proposals are approved that are going to just turn their city into, a further concrete jungle. Bridget, maybe you want to say something? No?
Sure. I agree with Anne. And a lot of the development that's happening is not coming with incentives to offset some of these, contributions to heat island effect by planting trees. So, in addition to the sort of development going so fast, there's also a lot of tax breaks and a lot of sentiment that, developers are being let off pretty easy. And I would say, definitely resources are a challenge. Getting local government, I would say not necessarily to get on board, because I think we have a pretty green mayor and city council, but the competing forces of all the different things that government is responsible for financing, sometimes the environmental issues and climate change falls lower down on the chart. So I think not necessarily getting buy-in, but getting prioritized. around these issues. And then there are feasibility challenges. So for instance, Southwest Yonkers, where we need trees the most, the sidewalks are in some cases so narrow that street trees are just not possible feasibly. So I think there are some other feasibility challenges with the way that our cities were designed, that it's going to be extraordinarily costly to do some of this work. And then in some cases, it's not actually all that feasible.
It's very, very, very true.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah.
One thing I've learned, especially if you got the developer and the local government are kind of in cahoots to push a development through, one of the best things you can do is find a good lawyer, because that's one thing that planning boards generally pay attention to, even if it doesn't stop them dead in their tracks. Well, they might ignore me or you. If a lawyer gets up there and starts talking about Article 28 and a bunch of other stuff, at least slows them down enough so that you can maybe organize some opposition. Any other questions from anybody? Great. Well, I'd like to, if we don't have any other questions, I'd like to really thank the panelists. I learned a lot and feel much more optimistic about what we're trying to do with environmental justice, at least in my area in Westchester. So just thank you all. Thank you for being here. And if you want to continue the conversation, in the garden there's an environmental justice table, and we hope to see you all around the convention. Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Yeah.
Thank you all. So I gotta try to get to the garden, John.
What you can do, I think, is it if you click on, let me click on the calendar and see. No, it's not going to do that. So I'll tell you what. Just can you click on my name and follow me, and I'll go there. Can you?
Okay,
can
sure.
you do that? Oops. Where did I disappear to? Where am I? Seem to have fallen off the map. I'm sorry. Chrome, history. Where is it? Help. Sorry, for some reason it dumped me out of the system. I don't know why. You still there?
I was gonna say I can't find you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm right here.
Yeah.
And then
Oh, there's your avatar. I guess I just click on it, huh?
yeah, I think you have to just look at the list of attendees, which is way over on the left there. And
you're on mute.
Oh, sorry, I'm on mute. Can you hear me now?
All right.
Oh, just a second. Okay, now you should be able to hear me. I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Now I can.
Okay, great. Yeah, so just if you go over to the attendee list on the far left there, down at the bottom, it says people, shows a picture of people. And then if you just click on my name and then just say click follow, And
Yeah, I've been looking for your name, and you know what?
it
It's
should
funny.
be at the
It
top.
wasn't.
Yeah.
Oh, they put it back in.
Yeah. Sorry.
Okay.
Hey, Paul, how's
Okay.
it going?
Great job, everyone. Great job. I wanted to I joined late, so I couldn't. I had the Vimeo. I wanted to record. I don't know if there was a recording.
I recorded, but I started it late because I was just having trouble with the browser.
Yeah.
I've been trying to do this and record the other sessions at the same time, and it was a mess, you know. But I did get all of Neil's presentation, which was amazing, right?
You spoke very well, and about the message of having to sometimes apologize, and then having to be able to work with work with these communities without imposing an agenda and things like that.
Yeah,
you spoke very well.
It's the same thing. Yeah, the
Oh,
same
good,
thing Anne
Paul.
was saying.
Good,
Yeah.
because I know
Yeah.
you know exactly what I'm
I
talking
like Gary
about.
Abraham. He's kind of giving the textbook definitions, and it shows like we're all in this together.
Yeah, well, you know, that thing that he taught me when I talked with him before was that, you know, I'm all about this thing of, well, we got an EJ community here, and there's one in Bedford, and there's one. But the fact is, the way that they define it by the law, if you're in a seeker process, they say you don't. That's not an environmental justice community. We don't have to. I mean, we pay even less attention to the rights of the people there than we would to the people in the housing development, you know, down the road. So they're not protected by that part of seeker because you know, they're not 40% minority or not 40% under the poverty level.
Yes.
And so it's really I mean, it's every like with this topic, with all these topics, we learn something every day, every minute.
Right. Paul, there's 2 more environmental justice presentations or panels, right?
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. What time are they?
Tomorrow I think tomorrow at 11 a.m. And then another one at 3 o'clock p.m. I can give you the exact times. Give me 1 second.
Or I can look on the schedule tomorrow because
I got it right here. It's Saturday.
Saturday.
There's some breakfast topics. I think you're doing one of those, Paul, aren't you?
Yeah, 8 o'clock in the morning. Oh my gosh.
What are you doing at 8 o'clock in the morning, Paul?
So they want to talk about youth engagement and ideas to get young people involved. And I was going to share ideas about ways that people could engage their, their high schools, advanced placement course students, engaging like a neighborhood, a boys and girls club, engaging a YMCA, engaging youth bureaus, kind of like the stuff we did through FCWC, so that you can not only help these organizations with environmental engagement, but you can also kind of help them with ideas that they can then streamline to their own respective school districts and their schools. And I'm going to be there. I think there's another young girl that's a member of the
recording stopped.
What CAC is she from, John? I think she's a young student that's part of a CAC, like as a teenager.
I'm not sure. I didn't look at that. I didn't look at this. I just said you're going to be on there, so I'm going to try and if I can wake up in time, I'll be there.
That's really good, Paul. You can be sure to talk about your conference with the UNH on Sunday.
Yeah,
because that's a networking opportunity for all the students of New York State, right?
Yes, I could share that with them. I could share that with them as well. And because right now, what we want to do is I'm trying to like encourage CACs to invite young people to be on them, like students. You know, because it helps out because you have students that are taking advanced placement course in high school, and then they feel as if that's kind of their environmental requirement for the rest of their lives, instead of being aware of what the historical issues are and really help encourage them to pursue career pathways. I think that would be the best thing to do.
And even if they want to get involved, sometimes they don't know who in their community is doing anything, right?
Agreed.
Yeah, and also if you start in high school to get involved like that, you get so much understanding of local government and how it works and how to be effective within it. I mean, I wish it had happened to me, but in high school and even early college, I didn't connect in like that, and it's hugely valuable.
Yes.
The sooner you do it, the better, right?
Because if you look at
that's really the goal, and Gaylord, Gaylord and I were both like, we've been involved in Irvington. We can see the benefit that would have, Paul. So FCWC would, help.
Yeah,
support you in that effort to try
I
to get.
definitely,
you know,
I'm going to bring this to the FCWC board because I think it's something that's very possible. Just identifying the schools that have advanced replacement courses, and then looking at their FCWC membership to kind of expand transparency of maybe like a Save the Sound might have internship or volunteer opportunities, or
And student
maybe
memberships. Do you have those for the
yeah,
Federated Conservationists? There
we
is?
have
Oh,
student
great.
memberships. We created
Yeah.
a student network, John, where
Oh,
we have
cool.
students that are leading their own programming. They're planning a tree in New Rochelle. They're also been helping with programming for community gardens at academic institutions. It's really a phenomenal group of young people. It's like peers leading peers in environmental leadership. It's really amazing.
Speaking of the garden,
Last year.
let's head over to the garden now. So we'll see if any
Okay.
of the attendees are there.
Okay. Cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Okay.
Last year, Paul, you ran like 12, like 5 different webinars, or 7, I think,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah.
You know, young people presenting to each other. It was so incredible. And then the other thing is the lobbying of the regents for the environmental education, the integration of environmental education throughout K to 12. That is a wonderful effort of our student network.
That was amazing. So John, there's a legislation that was introduced. Oh, sorry. It's called the Environmental Sustainability Education Act, and we hosted a student forum with Steve Otis, by the way, who I know he was in the program, with Shelley Mayer and Amy Paulin, and they kind of gave background information of how the legislation is being done and how it has to be done in partnership with the New York State Board of Regents. It's to have environmental education as a core curriculum. And the student network, the students followed up with having a meeting with the regent representative for the Hudson Valley. And they were, I heard they were letting her have it. They were telling her that,
that's great, because when we
not doing your job, So
it was a great meeting, and they're going to get a follow up. She wants to follow up with Regent Wills. To her credit, she's really concerned. She wants to follow up on that.
I got the email from the form that you want me to sign. I'll get that done for you, Ann.
Oh yeah, no worries, Paul. That one, you'll get to it. We know, not a problem. We had to just get that out pro forma because we realized we should have had it out in June.
Well, it looks like there's nobody at the environmental justice table, but that's where it is anywhere in the garden. So if we stop by once in a while,
you want to walk over to it, John?
Sure, why not?
Show Ann exactly where it is. Yeah. I think it's off screen for me.
We're up here.
We are. And over here.
This is our
Yep. You got to sit in one of the side chairs for some reason. You can't sit at the end. I don't know why. So you have to get on the bench, and then you're in the zone, right? Yeah. There you go.
Yep.
So now.
And I guess you didn't play a lot of video games. I guess no, right?
No, not yet. Looks like I'm going to probably start playing a lot of them now. I'm guessing this is just going to be followed up by many gather events.
So John,
we're kind of happy with this.
We're going to have access to this gather town, right, for a little bit of time after the conference.
I know it's going to be active all year. It just will be limited the number of people we can have in a meeting, unless we make a special arrangement. So this whole site will be open, and you can have meetings up to 25 people. And if it looks like we need more capacity, then what we do is NISAC just pays a little more money to gather to increase the memory capacity that they're giving us. So we could get 100 people or 200 people or whatever in.
That's great. That's really great. So John, can you give me a sneak preview? Who's going to be getting awards at the meeting?
Who's going to be getting awards? I think they already presented the awards, didn't they?
Oh, did they do that already?
Carolyn Cunningham was the award recipient.
Yeah.
She won I think Margaret Sachs Award.
Yeah, the Lifetime Achievement Award. Yeah.
Oh, that's so excellent.
They mentioned FCWC. They mentioned her time as vice president of the board, as executive director. Oh my gosh, she's done such amazing work.
Yeah.
But tomorrow we have several things. I mean, the workshops you'd asked are 10 a.m. and 1 p.m. And then Paul's going to be hosting a film showing at lunchtime. The Sacrifice Zone. I think you've probably seen that already.
on the sacrifice zone.
Yeah, that was great. Remember, Paul, you were on that
Yes.
panel
Right.
a year and a half ago already.
It was a while. Yeah, that was right when COVID hit, I guess, right?
Right. You
Yeah.
were amazing. What good use you made of the COVID period, Paul.
Yeah.
You know, you were
It's-
networking like a crazy person.
I think it shows, and that, I think that's a little bit of a silver lining, that the fact that we're having this virtual engagement, it allows accessibility for
Yeah.
people, eliminating the geographic barriers and transportation.
Yeah.
So maybe we could see if we could do a youth summit on Zoom or something like that. We could revisit that, but that's a conversation, I guess, with Peter McCart and getting the Zoom capacity of being able to have all the breakout rooms and things.
But
we should do gather.
Yeah, we could use this gather site.
They would love it.
Yeah,
the students will love this. Oh my gosh.
No,
Yeah, don't you think, Paul? You could help us design that. That could be, and we're going to try to raise money to get to fund a conference. Okay, so whatever it costs to get gather time and get some time from you, we'd have to get some paid time, to create.
No,
it has to be a really high level conference.
And what you can do,
it like really good.
One of the biggest costs in doing this thing was just designing the site. Now that we've got the site, we could just relabel it, and if you want to do a FCW wants to do a conference, or some of the Upstate people want to do one, basically, it's like we kind of paid for the building of this conference site here, and now anybody can use it. We just have to arrange to increase the capacity to whatever they need, right?
Oh, that's awesome! And you know what? If you guys when somebody uses it, you could have a fee so that you can pay back the cost of having built it, because it's worth it. I mean, you know what I mean? We would expect to have to pay something for whatever venue we were to use for a conference, right?
But I'll talk
that'd be really cool.
I'll talk to Simon, but I think his idea and our idea was basically just that we have to, because what we'd have to do is if we want to increase the capacity from the residual 5 for 25 to like 100 or 200, we just have to, for the month, pay them an extra fee. And I think our idea was basically, if anybody else wants to use it, any of our people, that they could do it, they can just defray that additional capacity charge, right?
Awesome. This is so good. Well, that's really good to know, because Paul, is pointing out what is under discussion at FCWC, a student conference.
Oh, that'd be great.
Student summit.
So John, in 2019, going into 2020, we're planning a student conference with the County Youth Bureau and the United Nations Association to assemble students all throughout the school districts of Westchester County to come to the Westchester County Center and be exposed to environmental engagement opportunities through numerous environmental organizations and nonprofits, so that they could be involved. Because during that time, that was during the rise of Greta Thunberg and climate emergency, and we were trying to be forward thinking of creating like open channels of communications for students to be active and get early exposure for environmental leadership. But COVID hit us, and we weren't able to.
I remember that. Yeah.
We did do some virtual programming where we highlighted some young leaders during Earth Month, but I think now that we're seeing that this is kind of going to be a cultural change for a little bit of a while, we might as well pursue a virtual conference for the students throughout Westchester County. And I think this will be good for accessibility, because I remember when we were planning the conference, where we were noticing how some school districts are more wealthier than others, and some school districts were able to afford the busing or identifying a chaperone. So this could eliminate a lot of the economic barriers for students to be able to participate in. I think they will probably love this video game type of feature and be able to walk around and control an avatar.
Let's do it.
Definitely, let's do it. This would be great. You guys could be co-sponsors, and then you could do workshops on how to, youth can get engaged in CACs, John.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Right?
That we definitely want to do. But I tell you, the best part of this conference is the only part that's not virtual, which will be on Sunday, where we're going to. And the idea I got from you, by the way, Ann, but to have a meeting and end up in the beer hall.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I remember the first one of those you
Good
organized. It was
move,
fantastic.
good move, good move. Oh, that's great. What time are you going to end up in the beer hall? Because Paul and I, unfortunately, are busy with a UNA conference.
I think
on
I think
Sunday.
at 4. I think that let me check. What does it say? Site visit.
Yeah,
Let
let's see.
me just go to that page. Okay, it says we're going to meet there at 1, and it does. I thought it was 1 to 3 actually. And then 1 to 3. So 3 o'clock we're going to end up in the brewery there. Wait, say I'm sorry, missed it. Oops. Oh, I can't hear you. Oh, Ann, you're muted, I think.
Oh, I think Ann got disconnected.
Okay. No, I just
she's back.
okay.
Awesome. Welcome back.
I put her on the spotlight so she can talk from anywhere. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not muted, am I?
No,
Nope, we can hear you.
I think you were for some reason, so I just unmuted you. Yeah.
Oh, okay, thank you. Because anyway, I think that's brilliant, and it's it really is going to be a fun way to end the whole conference for sure. And the tour of the science barge or whatever you're doing down there, the community gardens, is really going to be good because Groundwork Hudson Valley's their work is so exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
They really know what they're doing when they're grounded on their community. It's really nice to see what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm really eager to see
so
that.
I'm having a good time. This is really well conceived.
Yeah, we're getting better at it, right?
Yeah.
And
Good,
no, but I'm really
good.
excited about that youth thing, Paul. We should talk about that and just get that organized and do it, if we can do a combined live and virtual, people are used to that too, so kids who can't make it can join virtually, and the other ones will put up some big monitors in the in the county center there, and it'd be just like a video game convention or something.
Agreed.
Oh my gosh. Well, you know what? We're going to be fundraising for this on next Thursday of the 28th. That's one of the things that we're fundraising for. So, Paul, are you going to be able to be on, and can you speak about that? To say
Yes.
one of the things we'd love
Of
to have
course.
you just say something.
Of course, I'll be happy
Okay,
to.
cool.
Do I have to buy a ticket? I'm going to buy a ticket. Sorry.
You're muted.
Okay. Oh. Can you hear me now?
You're still muted somehow.
Let me spotlight
I
you,
think
Paul.
because you're spotlighted. So
Okay.
let me
Okay, I
I think I'm gonna
spotlighted
go
you, Paul.
over to Ann.
You should be able to talk.
Okay, you spotlighted me now too.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now I can hear
Okay,
you.
yes, yes. So yes, I'll be there. I could talk about it. And do I have to buy a ticket for Thursday, or I think I'll buy a ticket just in case?
I can get you a ticket. I can get you a ticket. Not a problem. I got to get a ticket for Bianca and Dylan too.
As well.
I'm hoping Bianca and Dylan will get on and say a few words, and then if you would say a few words, then we'll have the student thing covered.
I'll be happy to, because it's
Great.
and I think right now we have to kind of think about innovative ways to create connections for young student leaders to become community leaders at early stages of their lives, because we had to be able to, at least I know that in Westchester County we have so much resources. We have organizations that are looking for interns. We have like places like the Department of Health. They have a program where they can help students could go into the rivers and help monitor mosquito populations and things like that. Like these are fun things. We could like jump into the river with Tracy Brown, who's now a river keeper now, and we could do river cleanups and things like that.
Guys, I gotta run to the other room to set up the other meeting, but I'll see you later, okay?
Great, John.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Paul, that's important what you're saying. Yeah.
But I know we have the potential.
That was, there goes John Rhodes.
Hey.
Bye-bye.
Hey, Dan, how's it going?
We need to get. He's coming back.
Yeah, no, I'm just heading to the auditorium because I think we're gonna have the NISAC general meeting, like the annual meeting.
Yeah, I think it's underway. It started at 3, but we're just having a little local neighborhood catch up.
Okay. We'll see you in a bit then. Take care.
Okay.
already done so. I mean, for example, tree ordinance is always the classic example. How do you write one? I mean, there are, and then I've asked our Region 3 forester, George Provis, which ones do you recommend to be the best? And he says, I tell you, Simon, it all depends on the community. Each community has their own needs, so it's really it has to be tailor-made to that community. John Rose is in the house.
Yeah, I
John,
actually.
could you spot? You are spotlighted. Great.
Yeah, what I did.
Can I just say 1 second? 1 second, John. Can I just give a little commercial since Simon just mentioned tree ordinance? We have a session on that tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Is that session, I believe? So, and it is going to be specifically about how to design a tree committee. So please come.
No, I was just going to say I thought you'd wanted to set up a Zoom webinar for this meeting, so I set one up, and I was sitting in there, and it was nice and quiet, and I figured you guys must be in the auditorium, so I came over.
Okay. Okay, I have a hand up. Michelle Henry, you had a comment? Did I spotlight you? I thought I did spotlight you. Hold on a second. Let me find you on my list. I'll hold you. Keep your hand up, and I'll give you a chance to talk.
Okay.
You are talking, so you're spotlight. So you have a question, Michelle?
Well, I was amazed I figured out how to put my hand up being on my cell phone. So that I'm also from Tompkins County. It's good to see that EAC or EMCs are still recognized and understood as being part of this. You guys might know Brian Eden. He was kind of remiss that the EMC part of the namesake was taken off of things. But it's good to not have to reinvent the wheel all the time, and it's really great to bring everybody together in the sense that you're talking about. I am also just learning about this. Steve Nicholson has always shed good light about this organization. It was just really good to understand how everybody else got together. It's an interesting world to work through this digital realm, but it's good to see how it's still functioning rather well, and I'm really grateful for the resource room in the library.
Oh, thank you. That was one of the things we're really proudest of, because that's our mission, is to disseminate information, and please use it if you haven't used it. It's a great resource. I see a hand up. Is that Rachel? Rachel Teeger. Rachel?
I spotlighted her. It's okay. Got it.
Okay.
Sorry about that. So speaking of resource libraries, our resource library and tree commissions, we had a breakfast topic on that session on the topic, and we created a folder in the resource library all about tree commissions and tree ordinances and how to start one. So you can check that out.
Great. Thank you very much, Rachel. And Rachel, by the way, was mostly responsible for putting together the breakfast table to talk. So if you didn't go to one this morning, we're holding them again tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. The conference opens up at 8:45, and they're great topics, by the way. These are all topics that we just couldn't fit into a workshop. But traditionally, NISAC's conferences, we would gather informally at breakfast at the hotel or motel that the conference is being held at, and we would just set up tables where people would sit around and someone would suggest a topic to talk about, or we might put a placard out. And so we tried to recreate that same feeling. I unfortunately did not get a chance to go into them, other than the climate grief one, which I was very, very, very touched by. It was extremely emotional. I mean, talking about climate grief is certainly nothing you want to talk about, and it's certainly not been really discussed on the national level by many people. But it was, I think it's also going to be, if you're interested in that one, I think it's also going to be held tomorrow. I believe they have someone covering a different person. So if you get a chance, I mean, it's a place that, you can sort of talk about it and not feel, not feel. I mean, you're going to feel stressed. I can't imagine how you're not going to be feel stressed. But we need to talk about it. Anyway.
Let me just plug one of the other ones. Paul Presendu, who's what part of helped organize our environmental justice track, is doing one at 8 o'clock tomorrow on getting young people involved in your CACs and other environmental groups. And I know he's already done that with FCW and so on, but that might be a really good one. I know I'm going to go and attend it because that's one of the problems we're having is getting people from the high schools and local college kids involved. So
just to
be clear on that, that's at 9 a.m.
Yes,
Given
at 9 a.m.
The breakfasts are 9, workshops are 10.
Right, it's 9 a.m. and you get, but
not
you
at
should
8.
get in around 8:45 because again, some of these things we expect a larger crowd tomorrow, only with the non-work day. So definitely come in. I see Rachel's hands is up again.
Sorry, the climate brief, we didn't have it scheduled for tomorrow. It was just a one day.
Okay. Well, too bad. What can we say?
I also put the schedule in the chat of all the breakfast table topics.
Great.
Yeah, Saturday it is 9 a.m. Right. I guess people are waiting up that early on Saturday.
Okay. Okay, so I'm looking at some of the chats here. Camille said, I appreciate your feeling, Noreen, being in Henrietta here, haha. Rochester's okay, but maybe something more centrally located. See, that's been the problem with our NISAC conferences. When people will spend thousands of dollars to go to I don't know, pick a subject, a hobby of theirs, or if they're, whatever, they'll jet across the country to go to a conference. But to get Conservation Commission members to go to someplace in New York State is really tough. I mean,
maybe we should have it in Florida.
There you go. Maybe Nevada, maybe Las Vegas or something like that. So it's really tough. And that's why I view this virtual thing as a possible solution to that. Peter McCart, you're back on the mic.
I was just going to say, because most of us, at least on the CACs, are volunteers.
It's not a criticism. It's a reality is that it's really tough getting people to do that because they have to spend maybe $400 or $500 to come for a 3-day conference. Here, we will. This is the only time we'll probably do it for free. But next year we could probably do it for maybe $25, $30 a person.
We could do a hybrid, maybe.
Same type.
And I just want to be clear. I will come to Rochester.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I will come, but I'm lazy.
I'd rather. If you do that, then the following year we're going to have it in Ocean Beach.
Oh, in Ocean Beach, that'd be great. We'll host.
But
no
the
problem.
best.
Strangely, Albany seems to be like the most centrally located.
Albany has always been the central place that we go to. If no one has has done that, and you're right, Albany is the easiest place to get to. Yeah. So we usually have it either there or just north of Albany in Saratoga Springs, the Gideon Putnam Hotel, which is right within the confines of the I guess the National Historic Site. It's where the famous Saratoga Springs are.
Or perhaps Ithaca.
Ithaca is another place we've had it. It's a great city. It's we've had it at Corning. I mean, Steve was rattling off the names this morning. We've had it. We've actually had it up in St. Lawrence County, which is right on the border with Canada, and that was one of our most sparsely attended conferences. But again, it was an excellent conference. I mean, but I just like you to know. And by the way, the Appalachian area is one of the least populated with CACs. People up there are not impacted as much by development, and so that they, I don't know. There's many reasons, I'm sure, besides that. But anyways, any other hands? I see multiple hands up. I'm sorry. Rachel, Rachel, yeah, I don't know who had their hand up first. Rachel, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I put it in the chat. I was wondering about a hybrid model.
Yep, that's what I like.
Yeah.
I looked at that because I was looking, and I didn't really share this with our committee. I think our committee was basically not going to go with the live. I mean, we are going live, by the way, Sunday. So if you're in the area, I'll give a pitch for this. Actually, John, why don't you pitch Sunday's site visit?
Okay,
site visit.
Okay, Sunday's site visit. basically we're going to go to the brewery down in Yonkers and have some beers. No, it's there's another part to it. Excuse me. We're also going to visit the science barge and the daylighting project, and those other projects, and the Hudson cleanup project that are all within about a 3 or 4 block area. But the most important part of it is we're going to get to have a beer together afterwards, right?
Right. So anyone in the Westchester area or nearby, please. It's a spectacular project that was put together by Yonkers, where the Sawmill River was put underground and culverted, and part of they got a huge grant from New York State. They opened it up and created this incredible park in the area. I'm sorry, Steve Otis had his hand up, and then I'll go around to Kate and then to Nikki.
So it's 1 o'clock on Sunday. Okay.
Right.
I just want to say, while we had a great turnout on the virtual thing, I really think, as I sort of alluded to this morning, going to the different places around the state is really a very rewarding educational experience to really get the feel from the local groups that are at a conference about what's going on there, and also you get to see these different corners of the state. So I hope we can bring that back if COVID allows us to, because it has benefits even beyond the workshop that are really, I think, very important. And it's sort of scary to think how many of these I've gone to in the last 30 years. But a lot of them, and they were very nice.
Well, I really like the hybrid method because it's great. It's great to go to Kingston. It's great to go to Niagara Falls, but there's some people who just can't make it. And what we can learn, what we've learned from this, and what we learned from the previous ones, is that we can have a live one, and we can also put it online. Put up some webcams, connect it with this site or with Zoom, and get the best of both worlds.
I guess Kate had her hand up, and I'll go to Nikki.
I'm actually just going to echo. I get that there is a huge benefit to having in-person meetings and to getting to see a local place. But, I sat in a bunch of environmental justice, and there's also some social justice components of it here. You don't want people driving all over the place. You've got people who can't take time off. They can't travel.
Right.
It's a cost to action. And this was accessible. I would never have been able to travel to an in-person conference. I have a little one at home. And so that's just what we're stuck to. So there is a huge accessibility and equity part of it that this can partially overcome. So don't minimize that this was different, and I get it. This was different than usual, but it was also really wonderful to draw so many people in.
Great. Thank you very much. Nikki?
That's a good point. That's a good point. I think hybrid really addresses both of those issues.
There's a whole industry, by the way, now on hybrid conferences. So, somebody sees there's money in this, so they've all jumped into it. Nikki Coddington had her hand up next. Or was it Helen? I'm sorry, I see a hand up over Nikki's head. Not Nikki. Okay, Steve Otis again. Oh,
I wasn't spotlit. I wasn't spotlit.
You can self-spotlight yourself, by the way, but okay, go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to announce there was a question earlier from somebody who's in this audience about whether other members of her CAC could still register, and the answer is one can still register for tomorrow. If you go to the registration link, and I can put it in the chat. If you go to the regular conference webpage and the registration link, you can still register for tomorrow, but it has to be before tomorrow because we send out every night. We send out the updated registrant list to get to be on the official guest list so they can enter.
So what was our total as of today?
I don't.
Oh, no, I looked at the total. I just it was over. Was it well over? It was not well over. It was over 500 registration. But it's interesting. We had no idea how many people were going to show up, and the sense of that people who are doing conferences said, well, if you get a third to a half of the people that register showing up, that's pretty good. But since this was a free conference, it's even less than that. Because people they had no skin in the game if they don't show up. So again, it was a gamble. So we got over. I don't know. I saw it at any one time over 100 people. Again, that's just that doesn't mean that we didn't have more than 100 people. That was just any one time. This conference actually could hold up to 500 people. You can see by the size of this auditorium, we could literally fit in 500 people. So we had no idea. I'm sorry, Nikki, are you still have a question or a comment? Your hand is up.
No, I'm done.
Okay.
All
right. All right. Anybody else that wants to speak? This is a good opportunity to talk. I mean, let me also say that if you haven't gone to the resource library, please do that. One of the things that we were, hoping people would do, and I didn't have a chance to go to the lounge. I don't know if anybody utilized the lounge. Did anyone go to the lounge and can give me a report on what was happening there?
Just passing through.
It's what?
I just passed through. I didn't, and talked to, met some people there and talked to people, but nothing organized. Yeah.
Okay, because there is a virtual beer and virtual coffee being served there. So if you want some, it's free, by the way.
Don't forget the bourbon, Simon.
And not just bourbon; it's top shelf bourbon. Virtual top shelf bourbon. Yeah, I'm sorry. Who's talking?
It's Rachel again. Sorry.
Okay.
So I wanted to send, first of all, a couple things. To a big shout out to our sponsors, and to ask everyone here to stop by the table of the sponsors if you haven't done it. Thank them for sponsoring. Send people over if you can, or if you think about it. I think that would be good. We have Dandelion and we have TerraCycle. But Dandelion was our sustaining sponsor and TerraCycle was our supporting sponsor. And then the other question was more about how NISAC can work together toward more environmentally friendly legislation. Is that something you guys have done in the past, or is that something we could create a task force going forward?
Well, you raise an interesting point. NISAC is a 501c3, so if we want to keep that tax status, we cannot lobby for specific legislation. We are an educational organization. We certainly can present educational support for environmental policies, but to actually go to Albany and lobby for that, we would lose in a substantial way. And typically, I don't think people go after them unless someone complains. And but we really can't endanger that classification. So I'd like to further that conversation with you, Rachel. And as I said, if there's any other ways of getting around that, maybe someone who's good on tax law would know that.
Well, what we can do is we can go to Albany to help educate the legislatures, right? We'd stop by Steve's office.
We could do that, but we just can't. We can't support specific candidates, and we can't support specific legislation.
No, we can educate people about it, and
we could probably get around it by. I'm sure there's a go around of that. Yeah. But that's sort of what we're in.
Do you know about that, Steve? In terms of what,
I think that historically NISAC has not gone that route. There are plenty of other environmental groups that we all work with, and that many of you work with, that do the issue lobbying. And NISAC has traditionally been an educational group to serve members and around the state. So in terms of the exact rules, we can look into what lines you can't cross. But I think Simon's concerns are, if you wanted to go officially lobby, there's a whole registration process and things, and it may get complex, and it may not be necessary because there are people we all deal with that are lobbying on the same issues already.
Brett, you had your hand up a long time. What do you got to say?
I'd like to say this. I took over a board 4 years ago that was isolated. They worked themselves into a corner. I used other CAC boards, the local one in the township of Canandaigua, to help me. And I also went out of our jurisdiction to Simon at NISAC. And I believe myself, I have the greatest counsel in the town board areas. Mine has surpassed even the town board. And I truly believe if it was not for NISAC and the freedom of information that they have gave me, my board would be in a failure. It takes off.
Great.
Well, that's great testimony. I want to make sure you write that on a piece of paper so we can put it on our website. I thank you very much, Brett. Anybody else want to comment on anything that's on your mind?
People were asking about the beer and how to get to it on Sunday. I put it in the post, the directions on. It's starting at Curb at the Urban River Project there, and it's the address is in the chat.
Okay. Well, if you come to the walk, I assume you're going to come to the walk first and then go to the beer, right?
Yeah. No,
it's directly to the beer.
It's 2 hours of environmentalism and then 2 hours of beer. Right?
Okay. Well, we can mix and match. We're getting closer to 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock, the conference officially ends, and we have a 15-minute grace period. So again, I'll raise if anybody wants to comment. This is a good time to do it. If not, I think the exhibition hall is still open. You might want to spend a few minutes in there, but we can't have more than we have right now 48 people on site. But after 4:15, we're going to have to kick you out. I mean, the site will start degrading, which is an interesting feature of GatherTown. Is that there's a lot. By the way, to understand this site, you have to appreciate that you have 150 cameras, 150 microphones, all working. So you can imagine how much computer power needs to do that. So when we had raised this up to 500 people. We expecting, who knows, what the hell? We just spent another few dollars. We'll get it up to 500. But as I said, I find the cost of GatherTown to be relatively inexpensive so that if you want to use it for your own purposes, I think you will find references in our website, the conference website, as well as our NISAC website. Contact them. This is a great platform. Even so, I'm not even saying you can use it socially. If you want to have a family get together and have some fun with your family, and you can't see them from all over the world, all over the country, this is a place that you can meet, and it's a lot better than a Zoom call. I'll tell you that. And just so you all know, because we don't necessarily tell everybody, but if you look on the upper right-hand corner of I guess I'm looking at Steve Otis's screen, but the upper right-hand corner is 2 double arrows pointing away from each other. If you depress that key, bingo, you get expanded views of everybody. So it's not so Mickey Mouse. You could do that. Again, if you don't have to do that, you can go ahead and if you want to decrease it, you could just put the 2 arrows that are facing each other back together. So
just one question, Simon, because I was met with a few people after the environmental justice session, and they want to. This is Federated Conservationists and some other people. They want to organize a youth conference like the one that Peter was putting together with them last year, but was canceled because of COVID. And the idea is to do it on Gather. And I told them, well, look into it. But basically, since we've already built this conference space here, they could use this. We just have to expand the capacity for a few days, or for a week or whatever Gather does.
Again, we're not offering you to pay for the conference, but we're offering you the space, which, by the way, is a lot more expensive than the actual money we gave to Gather. Just the cost of the
building it,
construction of it, and the training for it, and the having the tech people here was probably maybe 2 or 3 times the cost of what it costs during Gather. And Gather, as I say, is if you want to have a conference here, it's like maybe, I don't know, $2 a day $2 to $3 a day per for an 8-hour day. So if you have a 100-person conference, it's like what, $300, something like that.
So we're offering the use of our virtual hall to our partners, right? Basically.
Yeah. Can I chime in here for just a second?
Absolutely.
Oh, I think since we're especially you all, we all are very well versed in it right now, and it is built, I would make a recommendation that you use it again for next year.
Well, again, sure.
And I'm an in-person guy, but I mean, this is such a great, platform. And you've got all the expertise now, and everybody knows how to use it to some degree or another. You just expand on it, and make it bigger and better, and use You know, because New York State's a very large state, and for people to get around from one edge to the other, it's a hike. Think about the people out in the east end of Long Island. You know, I mean, that's just like to get up to Albany even is just a trek and a half. So to use this, you get more people in the room, as we've all found. So there's more participation in a lot of meetings because of Zoom and the virtual aspect. So I'm just making a pitch for it. You know, you either have volunteers that can't afford the long trip, or you have people like me that you know, I've got a day job and I have a lot of work, and you know, I like to be able. I've been kind of working here while I've been, you know, going in and out. So I'm just making a pitch for it. So that's it. And thanks again for everything. I got to leave, but you guys have just done a fantastic job. Rachel, everybody, all the people, all the way through have just done a tremendous job, and I thank you very much.
And Pete, don't forget, we have some excellent workshops tomorrow.
So, I'll be here. 10 a.m. I'm a panelist. It's going to be the best one. 10 a.m. tomorrow morning.
You're on a panel, right? Yeah.
The ticket you bought covers both days. So.
I will say, I was just sampling the beer over in the virtual. It's very light. It's a very light beer. If you're watching your weight, you're doing well.
Better beer on Sunday.
All right. Anybody else? Oh yes, I have. Oh, that was Pete. Okay. Anybody else? I'll let you all go then. I thank you so much. Oh, Pete is back.
Let's all do a dance.
Oh yeah, to end this conference. If you don't know, you hit the letter Z, and let's all get down on the floor. Here we go.
All right.
All right. Excellent. I love it.
Listen, thank you guys so much for all of this.
Okay, well, thank you, Camille, for coming from. I guess it's not the season anymore, so you're in your other home, your first home. But okay, thank you very much for coming, and again, hopefully we'll see you tomorrow and continue the conversation.
See you tomorrow.
Yeah, see you tomorrow, everybody.
Don't forget to step away from the microphone. I'm gonna respawn.
What's the resource for that?
That did all the hard work. So, again, say thank you to them tomorrow. They did an excellent job. I don't want to necessarily say anyone did anything better than others, but as a group, this is a group effort. So thank them all.
So Simon, I think you do probably want to unspotlight anybody who is.
Well, that's going to be a job. Well, I don't know how I'm going to do that.
Just.
No,
I'll put them in the participant list and unspotlight them.
Anybody
it might be that when they come back tomorrow.
Well, actually, Camille has left the house. I think.
Okay.
No, is Camille here? No, because I said I had spotlit her, and she's no longer spotlit.
Okay, I'm just saying that if you close and then you come back, you end up in the same place that you left.
Oh, yeah, everyone should know that too. Yep.
If you're on spotlight, more people could be hearing you than you want.
Okay.
So Nikki, I just unspotlit a couple people and it seemed to work.
Okay, good.
I was able to unspotlight Haven and John Rhodes.
Okay.
Well, they can unspotlight themselves too because they're staff. But
I
I'm just
spotlit
looking at
other people
Camille. I know
too.
I spotlit her, and she's no longer spotlit. So
Okay,
I
I
just
think we're good.
I just have a quick question. Tomorrow, which sessions are we going to want to have Zoom meetings set up for?
I'll send you that after our 4:30 meeting, John. I have it written down, but I'll send it to you.
Okay.
It's not. It's only we only have really, I think, one or two.
We
I think
got
we have the movie, and we have. Oh, by the way, the plug for the movie for all of you. It's a great movie on environmental justice. It's called The Sacrifice Zone. It's going to be held at 12 o'clock in the main auditorium. It will be on Zoom, I think, or live stream. I'm not quite sure how it's going to be presented. And we'll have a panel discussion led by Paul Presendo, one of our organizers and one of our staff members, who's from New Rochelle, leading that discussion. So that should be an interesting meeting as well, a movie and a panel. So that's something that we have advertised. Any last announcements before we adjourn to the bar? Or?
So are we meeting at 4 or 4:30?
Well, we might as well meet at let's meet at 4 o'clock. I'm
not everybody's here right now, are they?
Yeah, I don't know. There's still 25 people.
But I don't know if all the committee members are here right now.
So if you want, you can come back and take a break for half an hour and come back at 4:30.
Here or where?
No, I prefer going to the lounge.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll meet you in the lounge at 4:30 then.
Lounge at 4:30. We'll see you then.
Okay, everybody, goodbye.
Have a good night.
All right, good night.
Or a good break anyway.
Yeah, I'm gonna rejuvenate myself by respawning.
I don't know what's going on. Hey, Simon?
Yes.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I
have a question for you before, like, everyone disperses. Like, I don't
Sure.
need to ask everyone, but I could if I really want to.
What's up?
You want to speak to me privately?
Well, I mean, I don't know who else.
Let's go to the lounge now. Anyone who wants to talk for now.
Yeah.
I have to also be out of here by 5. So.
Do you want to talk now? Let's talk. Let's all get together. Let's do it right now.
Okay, let's go to the lounge.
Okay, the lounge.
Okay.
Haven, do we have a teleport to the lounge anywhere? I don't think so.
We don't, but the lounge is right on the.
It's right
arrow.
on. It's right
here. Easy to get to.
So now what do I do?
You can go to the
bar.
bar.
Yeah, the bar is up here.
Which bar? The coffee bar or the regular?
That's the coffee shop. I don't know where to sit. Maybe just take a table. About a table.
Okay.
A table.
Where you guys want to sit, Simon?
You here at the table?
Yeah. Okay.
So Simon, I had a question about Dandelion. I don't know if it's. I think we're the only. Oh, MJ is in the room too, but I think
it was a great presentation.
This is a private area, so
yeah.
Okay, I think MJ joined us. But anyway, did we get that? Do you know?
Get the money?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know.
Did you get what?
Did they say they paid it? I have to. Are they going to pay through PayPal, or are they going to send me a check, or what did they say?
Well, I guess that's my question. The person that we deal with doesn't deal with the money, but I'm just wondering, like, we might have more leverage today, like, than tomorrow, than Sunday, saying, oh, by the way, we never got it. Like, no, I don't know. I don't think they would not pay us, but just.
I'll check the PayPal account.
Yeah, no, it was a great. Were any of you at their session? I thought it was wonderful, and a good turnout, good questions.
Yeah, I think they should be very happy, as should the TerraCycle lady. I think they got a lot of interest. They got good questions.
Did you run them for the hour?
No, he did 40 minutes and then 20 minutes for Carolyn.
And that was that was done in the auditorium.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And you had less than 100 people, so they did they screen share?
They did screen share in the auditorium.
It's about 40 or 50 people.
Fine with
Yep.
it. Mm-hmm. Oh, perfect.
Have they been getting good traffic at their table? Do you know?
I haven't asked.
But it was a really good presentation, really interesting.
When you say people, how many people were approximately in the auditorium?
40 or 50, I think.
Do you think so? I thought it was like maybe 20 to 30.
Oh, okay.
But sure. I was counting little ghost figures manually, so I don't know how many were actually there.
Yeah, that's what I saw, but I left early.
So somewhere between 20 and 40, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So this is a postmortem on our first conference day. What are the comments?
Well, I had a problem with my first session with the recording. The Vimeo on my screen, when I have the Vimeo recording, my picture shows up on my left-hand screen in addition to my right-hand screen, and it covers the chat and it covers the people. So I was trying, like, someone was having tech problems. I wanted to like get a tech person, and and someone else like wasn't like able to communicate. I was wanting to contact them directly. Like, it was really frustrating. So I don't know if is that for everyone? Does everyone have like two pictures of themselves during the Vimeo?
No.
All right. So I don't know what that was.
But I had a different small problem with the Vimeo, which was the first time I clicked to record on it, it didn't record. And then I said, wait, it doesn't look like it's recording. So then I clicked on it again, and then the menu came up to select whether you wanted a window or the full screen or whatever. So it's going to take a little practice. We may have some partial recordings of some sessions.
Actually, that's true, because I was so busy making the announcements of the room that I forgot to record for the first few minutes. So like, he was into his second sentence before I started recording. So my first recording sounds kind of choppy because it in the middle of a sentence kind of thing.
That's better than me. I think I missed my whole first speaker. So.
Yeah. So as far as the Zoom went, I know we had some glitches, but I think overall the Zoom portion was okay. I mean, I thought it went well. I thought Sagos' speech was a good speech. It was almost 20 minutes. I said on the report, like 19 minutes.
No, very good.
I thought it was a pretty good speech, and I only wish we had, because people were, as you know, John, people were asking. Well, at least one person was asking a good question.
Yeah.
And we probably could have had a good Q&A with them.
Yeah.
But that's for another.
Well, the other thing that I learned, which is a very simple technical lesson, because I hadn't streamed video with sound on Zoom before, but if you're the one who's streaming the video and you mute your microphone, it also mutes the audio for the video, which is what happened why he was a silent movie for the first couple of minutes, and then I rewound it once I figured that out. So. But that's something that for the future, any of you on Zoom and you're streaming movies or videos or something, you have to leave your microphone on if you're the one who's streaming the video.
Who's handling the movie tomorrow? You or Dean, or both?
I don't know. I thought I'd help Paul out, but
I'm talking about the actual technical end for the video. Dean had sent an email to the woman who's renting it to us, and it seems like Dean was on top of it.
Okay, good.
He seemed to know what needed to be done, but we should contact Dean sometime tomorrow morning and test it out.
I'll talk to him and see if he needs any help with it, but or whatever.
We have it, by the way. We haven't paid for it. Maybe I'll tell them to go to Dandelion and.
Exactly. Just get the cash from them. Hopefully it won't be a problem. So John, I thought Dean said something about the microphone for the recording, but you had to change it from like internal to external, or like that it was an option that you can fiddle around with, and that's how
you probably could, and then I wouldn't have had that problem. But I basically I had muted myself when I started the recording because I didn't want my room noises to intrude. But in the basic settings, that also muted the commissioner. So
gotcha.
But I'll go and check. There might be a setup menu that you could use.
Yeah, I don't remember if he was telling me that or if he emailed that, but if you can't find it, you could just ask him. He knows. Yeah.
One thing I noticed at the beginning of the day, it didn't seem like a problem getting people trained. I mean, I stationed myself for the first half hour there, and I know and I had one other guy there, very nice guy. I think you recruited him, Eric. Not Eric, Rachel. So the two of us seemed to be able to handle the flow because I didn't expect that lower number. I thought we would get a little bigger number, but tomorrow we may get a bigger crowd, but it's less choices. But I'm just saying is that again, it's 7:45, so if you come there first and just to see what the numbers are, and if it's low, then I think we can handle it with volunteers or just a couple of staff members. It seemed to go, I didn't really have the issues were, we didn't have any time to train them, so we just gave them, this is how you move with an arrow, and this is how you teleport yourself to the breakfast table topic. I don't know whatever happened to them afterwards, because I never.
Well, I did find someone wandering, like just standing in the middle of in no man's land, and like on a path basically, and I stopped by, and she didn't know what she was trying to, she didn't know how to move, she didn't know how to do anything, like, and I was saying like, oh, can you go to the, I was trying to tell her basic things, she didn't know where they were, so she obviously snuck through with zero training at all.
Yeah, well,
but I was able to, help her to the room that she was going to land at 11, so that she, she was set up, so she just had to close her screen and then arrive.
Did anyone get any comments from people that I don't know what I'm doing other than that? Because I didn't. No one. Every time I approach somebody, they said, "Oh, I know how to use it." So I maybe they read our brochure. I don't know.
Or maybe they're younger than us.
When the workshops were starting, I kind of like went around to round up people to see if anybody was lost, and I found 2 people in the garden area looking for the workshop number by breakfast table number. So in future, it'd be good to have a way to kind of make it more clear, just for those 2 people. I mean, it wasn't a big deal.
Yep.
Good.
Well, and also this morning, there was a glitch with the teleporting for a moment, but then it was fixed. But like the exhibition hall was turned off for the teleporting. So I had just announced, like at the end of the breakfast session, I said, oh, and to go check out the resource library, just teleport yourself to the exhibition hall, then go to the right. And then everyone was fumbling around, and someone said, I can't find teleport. And I realized it was like deactivate, like it wasn't an option.
Huh.
And then like an hour later, it was activated again. So I don't even know how that happened. But
And I still have to figure out, like, there's the Hudson room. If you click on that, you end up in the sawmill room, even though, so I have no idea what that's about.
Yeah, we had the idea that the 11 o'clock one.
You had the same at the 11 o'clock one? All right, so I'm just going to deactivate it for tomorrow unless Nikki can fix it, because I don't know how to make spawning tokens.
Well, I don't know. I think it's easier having people going to a room and then telling them, the moderator telling them, oh, you have to go to the next room, rather than having them, especially if they don't know how to use Gather.
But that happens at real conferences too. It adds to the reality of it, right?
Yeah, that's right. I did have a very good experience with Ellen for the tech. One of my speakers wanted to go to the green room, and I couldn't do it. So I asked her if she could take care of that person, and it was at 1 o'clock. And she said she was leaving, but the person actually said she could make a 12:50 one. So she went there, and Ellen. So she handled her presentation perfectly at 2 o'clock. So maybe the talk, was it Nikki had a talk or someone had a talk with Ellen? I know I read some email that
you sent a really nice email that I think pointed out some of the difficulty, but also was very diplomatic and full of praise. So that worked out well.
I did.
No,
I
not
sent
you.
A nice email.
You're not diplomatic.
I don't remember sending a nice email today. By the way, Rach Haven, do you want to get some? You want to send me that list again?
What I'm going to do, Simon, is what would be a good time for you to upload it? Do you want to do it after this meeting's over? Maybe after 5
this evening. I have I have to pay for the movie, and I want to check PayPal.
Okay, so what I'll do is I will just double check for late minute signups. And I'll do it like at 7:30, and I'll get you the email at 8 o'clock, and then you'll upload it for tomorrow.
No problem. The only issue is that I don't know why it errored on me when you did it the second time.
I don't either, so I'll take a look at that.
You take a look at that again. As I said, you could do it, but I'd have to give you privilege.
Don't worry about it. If you're willing to do it, that's fine. In future, maybe you might want to have a second person being able to do that, because it was hard. Because if only one person can do something, then you're if you're not available, then you can't.
No, you got me like 2 minutes before I was supposed to be.
Well, I know. I was trying to reach you for previous. I
was working offline at the house.
I mean, and this is just me trying to help every single lost sheep. It doesn't, like people. It's too bad you didn't register in advance. It's like you have to take what you get, right? So.
Right. There you go. So, Dean, I just want to check in with you about the movie. Are you? I saw the emails between you and Kat. Are you on for that?
Yeah. So the question was, do we want to embed the link in the audit? It's the auditorium. Is that where we're going to?
Yeah, we do it. Yeah.
So do we want to have a timed link put in there for noontime to the Vimeo interface for watching the movie? Originally they suggested we would do it in Zoom, but I said we don't need to go to Zoom. We have a chat link and Gather. We can just put that link in the chat. But if it's in the room and people just hit X, that's even easier.
I'd love to see that feature work once.
Yeah. No, it has worked a couple of times. It just hasn't worked a couple of times also. Yeah. It's worked a couple of times, but once or twice it didn't work. And that was.
But the backup is to put it in the chat and just announce to people to.
So then we have to send that to Nikki K then, right?
Yeah. So you want I think
the backup for that, and what we ended up doing for several public sessions was putting the Zoom link in the chat, and a lot of people joined that way. I don't know what the workflow would be like for Paul if it's a click to a Vimeo link and then people want to come back into the auditorium for the discussion group.
Right. Yeah, well, that's what they'll do. They'll go back in there, and I guess Paul is the one that's going to lead the discussion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did send that link to John Haven and Simon at 12:55 that had the link to the movie.
Well, what's your suggestion as to how we handle it? How we should handle it?
Well, I mean, it can go both. It can go in the floor, and there's no reason it can't work. And then I'll be there. I mean, I'll show the movie, so to speak.
Okay.
Like I do with the Terrytown Music Halls movies. I show them, but I could just announce to people to click X, and if for some reason that's not working, I'll just say go to the link, and then when the movie's done, come back here for a discussion with Paul.
So the movie's going to be a Zoom?
No, it goes to Vimeo directly to their.
Sorry, gotcha. Right, I did see your email.
Let me forward you that email. Sorry, I didn't.
Well, no, I got it.
Oh, you did get it.
I just didn't have time to read it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, since we got it already, can we test it tomorrow morning?
Yeah, no, you can test it right now. The movie is ready to go. You can watch it anytime, she said.
But I know that. I've heard that said to me before. Has anyone tested it? Has anyone actually run it? Because I would like to, I ran it at any time. Oh no, when you get, I'm saying it'd be good if you could do it at any time you want.
Let me share my screen as soon as I get it up here. Hold on a second.
Oh, good.
Okay, and that would look better to Dean than it will to us because he's directly connected to Vimeo, and we're going through Gather. So
let me find.
Yeah, that's a good point because.
But at the meeting, everybody's going to connect directly to Vimeo.
Hold on. Oh, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to share the browser tab that has the thing with you. The Chrome tab. Where is it here? There we go. This one. Okay. And so that's what people will see when they come in, and all they do is go down here and click the play button, and the movie plays.
But everybody's not going to be watching at the same time, though, right?
See it? Yeah. Okay, that's it.
Okay, the only question about that, Dean, that means that if people come in at different times, somebody's gonna start watching the movie 2 minutes before somebody else, or 3 minutes later, right?
Okay. They said that's okay.
Okay.
They don't have to all do it at the same time, but I guess we should have a link only available starting at the
Well,
same
if we're
time.
going to have a little discussion first, that Paul's going to introduce the movie, and then he or you can say, okay, now go click on X and watch the movie and have a good time, and come back here when you're finished. Right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'm just throwing out something totally extraneous. Has anyone gotten any comments about the diversity of this conference?
Yes. Positively, very positively.
What? Tell me. I mean, this actually, hits close to home with me. I just want to know what was the comment, if you could pass it along.
Well, the thing is that we had a Native American speaker on our panel, and that just got a tremendous positive response, again, because it's about environmental justice, and you have a Native American speaker talking about it, and so that brought up the comments that also the opposite comments in the same thing, that a lot of the environmental movement, especially in downstate and Westchester, is white and upper middle class, and that one of the things that came out of that particular session was that we really have to all make a real effort to be more inclusive in terms of all these different environmental projects that we're doing.
Actually, that really is something that we should have brought up at the NISAC meeting. I mean, we've tried, this is the first year I think we really tried to incorporate diversity into our conference. And, I was expecting somebody to come up to me and said, Simon, I just see a lot of white faces here. Well, where's the people of color? Where are the indigenous people? I was wondering if anyone said that to anybody.
6 of our 8 panelists in environmental justice are women of color. So
that's cool. That was great.
So we win that one.
Good.
Well, don't you sort of need conservation commissions to have more people of color on their commission bodies if you're going to
absolutely
draw, your audience is going to be more diverse?
That's the gist of the question. Yeah, you want to basically get how do you outreach? I mean, I don't know if you're going to address that in any of your website or workshops tomorrow, but how do you outreach to